Yeah.
We've pushed you over the edge, Chris.
On the dark side.
Play hard with these things.
Luke Skywalker. I'm an asshole, just so everybody knows. Welcome to Force Connect. I'm Pete Flitzer, one of your hosts. I have my friend Chris Ryans with me. We are the only live Star Wars Friday night talk show where we take your calls. We talk about Star Wars news of the week, or, honestly, whatever we kind of feel like talking about. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Man, Pete. I'm doing all right.
All right, you kick in a little high, and then you just run with it. You run with it. That's yeah. So once again, we are without Nick this week, but we ran out of people whose names end in ICK that we knew. I mean, I guess would be fair to say we aren't on Twitter, so we probably know a lot of dicks. But that's not the point. That's not where I'm going with this. Oh, Badoom Chi. So anyway, so it's just me and Chris tonight. We're hanging out, and we're hanging out with you. I see Camos. Hey, I always screw up his name. Camose Hill. I call him Camose Mills. Is it Camos? Is it Camos? Is it a guy who responds to every one of my tweets with just gifts, and I love that.
Use your words, Camos. Cam.
We'll just call Cam. We're going with Cam. Cam is what it is. Cam. Skywalker Academy's hanging out with us. Eric Elliott's with us. Sir Eric Brown.
Spell it out phonetically for us.
Yes.
Spell it out phonetically.
Yeah, put it in the chat. How should we say it? How should we say your name? Just so we know. I'm looking down at the chat right here. I see it. Camo C. Camos. Okay, good. Camos. Awesome. RG2088 is with us. So we got a bunch of people hanging out, which is good because it's just me and Chris tonight hanging out, talking about Star Wars. One of the things, again, I will say it at the top of the show. We have been very mindful, as much as we want to talk about all the new Star Wars shows and things that are coming out in support of those that are on strike, the Writers Guild, the Screen Actors Guild. We're doing our best to kind of stay away from those hot topics, including a show that's coming out in just a couple weeks. And so we're being very mindful of that. We won't be covering it. We know a lot of people will, and that's awesome. And do what you need to do. That's fantastic. But that's the stand we're going to take. However, Chris and I know that there's more than just a little bit of Star Wars to talk about. Last week we talked about comic books, and there's just so much to get into, and we're going to get into some cool stuff tonight. But before I get too far into it, Chris, how are things, man? How was your week? How was your Star Wars week? What's going on with you?
Star Wars week is always good, man. Look, a couple of things dropped, and they look great, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yes, there were some things. Yes.
I just finished Rise of the Red Blade. Delia.
How was? I've heard people. Everybody loves
Delia.
it.
What am I saying? Delilah Dawson. Yeah.
Delilah Dawson. Yeah.
Delilah Dawson. Yeah. I loved it because she hit on a whole bunch of things on why I am not a huge fan of the Jedi.
Really?
And I mean, this goes back to me just being very much, I guess, agnostic. I'm not, and I don't mean to, take this whole thing into
here we go.
And whatnot.
It's gone to the toilet already.
But it's too much like the Jedi. It's too much structure.
Yeah.
There's too much like if I'm gonna live with the Force and whatnot, like I want to live it on my terms, and that doesn't mean dark side. That doesn't mean light side. It just means my side.
Yeah.
And of course they were at their worst by the time the Clone Wars came around and everything, and all that stuff. So, and it just shows like, oh, come on.
What? Oh, TW McKay says he's on subbing. Oh, way to go.
No.
Come
on, I love the Jedi. Who doesn't love organized relay? I'm just kidding. But just like the way she was treated, because she was an outcast, and like hearing her mindset, I'm like, wow, that would be the way that I would be. I think if someone was being treated like that, and then by the end, like, okay, she's a little messed up.
Yeah.
And then that made me look at myself in the mirror a little bit. But yeah, I thought it was a fantastic book. And the last chapter, the epilogue, was her entire appearance in the Darth Vader comic. Like just
Oh
put
wow.
so like listening to it with the audiobook, I went and I grabbed the comic and I put it up on the screen. And I'm going by panel and just listening and watching the looking at the panels and whatnot. It was such a cool experience.
That's
Read
awesome.
Star Wars comics.
It's interesting. They are, they do come up. What's cool is, and we kind of talked a little bit about it last week, is like you don't have to have read them, but they're there to fill in the blank. It's, to me, it's like it's Cobb Vanth from my favorite Star Wars books, and it's weird because a lot of people are like, "Really, that's your favorite?" But the Chuck Wendig books are my favorite Star Wars books. I don't know why. I love them. Chuck's a cool guy, the whole thing. But Cobb Vanth came from those books, and it's so cool that if you want that story, there's a little bit more of it in the books, and the same thing with comics and all the expansion wherever it is. Yep.
And I don't know how long in advance, like if that character was thrown in by Charles Soule, like in the comics, or if that was thrown in, from the story group because they're going to have this book coming out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what came first with that, but I'm so glad it happened because that was such a cool story. And that's one of the things I love so much about Star Wars. It's like you can see someone from one panel and they've probably got some awesome story. That's why I'm like, I need to know their story. Yeah. I need a series on this person. Who's this jerk walking by? I need his action figure and a comic. Like I just love that stuff. And who's come on? No, great Jedi aren't a thing, so I wouldn't be a great Jedi. They're not a thing. So.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. Well, we have an interesting conversation ahead of us tonight. We were looking at what can we talk about that's a little bit different. And then, Chris, you sent this to me just yesterday, and I was like, let's go into that. And that is, we're going to spend some time tonight after the break. We're going to get into, and we definitely want to hear from all of you who are hanging out with us tonight, because I'm sure you all have an opinion on this. But we want to talk about what we might do different if we were in control when Disney purchased Lucasfilm. And listen, we want your hottest takes too. And if you don't like anything that Disney's done, bring it. Let's hear it.
This is not a laser eyeball thing here. This is nothing like that. No laser eyes. It's just I would do that different. I'd have more of that sort of thing. So before we start going to Kathleen Kennedy, stop.
First thing I would have done would be fire Kathleen Kennedy and then
get rid of all the women folk.
Then there'd be no Rey, and I would get want to the woke thing. Yeah. Hey, but if you want to say that, bring it. I want to hear it because I want to have that conversation with you. Chris doesn't, but I do. I want to hear what you have to say. But before we get started, let's do what we always do. We always start with just sort of a little bit of housekeeping. If you want to follow us on social media, and whichever one that is, whether it's Blue Sky or X or Twitter or the artist formerly known as Twitter or Facebook, we are at the SSW Network. You can also go to the SSWnetwork.com, which is probably the best place to find all those things. You can find us, of course, on this YouTube channel. And if you're listening on the replay on Monday, you can find us whether it's in the Around the Galaxy feed or the new Force Connect feed, which is just Force Connect, just the show. You can find it there. Do us a favor, if you haven't started following us over on that one, go ahead and do that there, because eventually we're going to take Force Connect out of the Around the Galaxy feed, and we're just going to have ATG there and Podcast of Whills and Force Connect. And of course, you can always go to our merch shop and you can purchase stuff at sswnetworkshop.com and use the code Connect15, get 15% off all your stuff. We just released a brand new t-shirt and sticker, and it's this last week. If you were watching last week, somebody threw a Shillsbury Doughboy. Whoops. As
was Eric?
I don't know who it was, but we have these stickers there in the shop. But tonight, I'll tell you what, go onto Twitter, share the feed, share the link for this YouTube, go and just put hashtag Force Connect, as you see on the screen, put it in there, and then we'll find you and we'll get your address and we'll send you a Shillsbury sticker. So just take a moment when we go to our first break, go over to Twitter and share the link to the feed. It's got to be the link to the feed with the hashtag Force Connect. And then we'll reach out and we'll get you a Shillsbury sticker, because hey, who doesn't love a little dark Jedi that goes hee hee, and it's got it's fun. It's got a red breadstick lightsaber. it would look great on your laptop. Is all I'm saying.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. Okay, we also start every show with a toast, and tonight I'm going to do the toast. You've had it the last 3 weeks, Chris, and
sorry about that.
Oh, hey, I'm much happier because I don't have to think about it. But today's is really easy because it's a friend of the show's birthday today. She is now she's back at Entertainment Tonight. She is one of their lead entertainment reporters. She might be their entertainment editor. It's Ash Crossan. She is the only person who has ever made me flustered on my own show. I want to show a clip. This is from when she was on Around the Galaxy, I don't know, 2 years ago. And I'm going to share this clip, and then we'll drink a toast to her birthday. One of the greatest, most generous fans she's got the coolest job. She has hosted Comic-Con. She hosted some of the big panels at Star Wars Celebration. Just a great person and just a big nerd. But here's a clip of a video from when she was on Around the Galaxy.
Wait, I have something to say. I hope this isn't inappropriate.
No, the more inappropriate, the better. Actually,
good. So I've been thinking through this interview. I think that you are a certified daddy.
Who, me?
You, yes.
How? Okay.
Yes.
So
I like to denote people as daddies from time to time.
Okay.
And I believe that you are a certified daddy. Like Pedro Pascal's a daddy. Like,
right.
Certified daddy.
All right.
You have the energy.
All right. Well, I that is going to be pinned on my Twitter now.
Yes.
That Ash Crossan, certified daddy.
Yes, it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
Well, it's I don't. It is incredibly rare when I don't know what to say. I mean, I talk for a podcast. I could talk for an hour by myself. There are times when I'm on with Nick and Chris where after the show, they're like, you just didn't shut up. Ash shut me down, which was great. And, me and Pedro Pascal now have something in common. So, I mean, what else can I do? So, happy birthday, Ash. Happy Star Wars to all of our friends out there hanging out with us. And may the force be with all of you. Oh, yes. All right. Well, we're going to take our first break. And when we come back from our first break, we are going to dig in to what we might do different if we took over Lucasfilm instead of Disney. And just, we'll have a little bit of fun with it. But first, here is our first break for the night. And we'll be right back with more Force Connect.
It's the new Star Wars lightsaber from Kenner. Inflation required, batteries not included. You can pretend you have powers when you switch on Kenner's Star Wars lightsaber.
Ready to feel the Force? Yeah! Switch on your Star Wars lightsabers, close your eyes and go. I got it. Me too. Zap! You passed the test. The Force is with you.
The Star Wars lightsaber, new from Kenner. Balloons not included.
Star Wars. It's great in the arcade. Whoa! TIE fighters! Fireballs! Coming right at me! Watch the laser towers. Aim for the tops. Pick on the cannons. Use the force. They're coming too fast! It's late! It's late! My shields are gone! All right! I'm going in!
Oh, some game, huh?
Some game!
In a galaxy of video games, there is only one. Star Wars, the arcade.
Okay, first off,
Yes.
let me tell you about that lightsaber. That thing was dangerous. All right.
Yes.
I had that one. It was dangerous. There is like a full burning light bulb in that thing with that, wrapped around a balloon. Fire hazard. That the balloon part, the blade part melted. I'm gonna say maybe like the second or third day I had that thing. I don't know how I remember this. So like I used to just walk around with the hilt. This is why I love hilts now. That's why I got so many. It's because of that. And I would have had that guy thrown out of my store. He
had the firm energy.
Security. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, we're gonna take your calls in a little bit. We see you hanging out. You're all ready to join us. But welcome back to Force Connect, the only live Star Wars conversation that takes place every Friday night live on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@the SSW Network. If you're listening on the replay and you're like, I wish I knew that this was a show that I could actually watch and see Pete in a goofy looking hat, which, by the way, thank you, Heroes and Villains. Heroes and Villains has a whole line. Yes, shilling right here.
Right.
A whole line of Star Wars hats. And they sent me a couple to take a look at. There's this one, there's an Ahsoka one, which I have as well. But yes, you can watch the show on Friday nights and you can be a part of it. We're going to put that link in the chat in just a couple minutes because we want to hear from you. But I'm going to start off. Let's get the conversation started. Look, in 2012, and I remember exactly where I was when I read that Disney purchased Lucasfilm. It was right after Hurricane Sandy. The power was out in my house. I had a child who was less than 1 year old. I sent my wife, my daughter, and my son out to my brother-in-law's who had power, and I stayed at the house like it was the zombie apocalypse. And I was checking my my phone, probably my Apple iPhone 2, maybe, I don't know, and across Facebook.
Windows phone.
Windows phone.
I was that guy.
And on Facebook, I read it and I was like, this is scary. This is good. Who knows what this is going to be? I remember, Chris, you said that you were a little concerned, a little nervous.
I was like, oh, this is nightmare scenario. I've been saying that for a while. I'm like, I hope that never happens, that they never go to Disney. And then it happened. And I think I may have said this to you before. Like, I sat in silence. Like, after Trump was elected, sorry, I bring up politics into this. I sat in silence for like maybe an hour. And I was just like, just thinking like how many ways they could destroy this. You know, that's just yes. And then I thought back to like stuff that they have taken, like I forgot what year it was, but I think it was after the 11th season. Disney had bought Power Rangers, and everyone was like, "It's over, like it's over, it's done." Then they're gonna make Mickey Mouse Rangers and whatnot. It's gonna be all stupid. And it wound up being probably the best years for the show, meaning the acting, the writing, the production value, everything was just like on point. And this is the part that got me scared, was that then Disney like got disinterested with it and let it just fall to the wayside. I'm like, oh man, that's going to happen. Then I was like, yeah, but they're doing okay with the Marvel stuff. And I think Avengers had just came out at that point. So I was like, so we'll see. So yeah, and that was like my first thing was Rebels. I'm like, if they screw this up, because I think 2015, I think is when it started, and the comics just started coming out in 2015. And I was like, all right, the comics are cool, but as far as the shows go, I'm like, okay, we have this Rebel show coming out. If this Rebel show is whacked, then for me, I'm done with this DC stuff. I was about to turn into like Theory and those other goofballs, but
you would have made a lot more money.
Oh, man, I'd be rolling in it right now. But it came out, and after the first episode of Rebels, I was like, yeah, okay, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Like, okay, we're good.
I remember specifically about Rebels, and then we'll get into what we would do differently. But I remember this specific, and in fact, it came up in my Facebook the other day, or whenever it came out, because it was the day after the first two. It was the first Rebels episode, because it was a part 1 of 2, and the following week the second one came out. And I remember, because I was worried, the pictures of Ezra with his slingshot, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be in the toilet right away.
Right.
It captured the essence of Star Wars in that first episode. Like it captured everything. But so they got that right. And honestly, we said it last week when we talked a little bit about comic books. We also talked, Nick and I spoke this week about some of the challenges facing Star Wars as a franchise as a result of the strikes going on and how that will impact some of the upcoming content. But all that aside, Chris, I'll start with you, since you threw out the idea to me, and then we'll go from there. We're going to talk about a couple things that we would probably each individually do a little bit differently, but give me your first one. If you're handed over the keys, Bob Iger signs with Lucas, and he leaves the room after all the cameras and says, Chris, what's your first move? What are you going to do?
Okay. The first All right. So my first thought with this, I'll leave for like the second or third thing. That was like my main thing, because I was thinking about, like, keeping it in universe kind of thing. But with the whole Lucasfilm thing, I would say give this trilogy as much time, this sequel trilogy, as much time as it needs. Take a couple years, take 2-3 years, let Brad Bird write this thing, and give him all the time he needs, and then start. But I understand they want to make their money back, as quickly as possible, because they just dropped $4 billion on all this. But yeah, that would be one of the main things I would do is, and it's not to say that I hated it. You guys know that I didn't hate the sequel trilogy. I just really didn't like what they did with Finn. I really, really didn't like what they did with Finn. But yeah, that would be one thing, is that to give the writing for this trilogy enough time that it needed to be spectacular. Just to make it as as succinct and as connected to the previous stories as much as it can. And so that would have been one of the things I would have changed.
Yeah, my first thing is very similar to yours, and I'll continue that, because I'll go a little bit further with it. It's, yes, give them all the time they need, but have a plan for the full trilogy. And I hate to sound like the grifters, because they love to jump on that there was no plan. For better or worse, the plan worked out for the most part. I love to throw back to people that George didn't have a plan. He wouldn't have had Luke and Leia kiss if he had a plan. That said, I think they could have mapped out all three, and I probably would have given all three to one writer. I wouldn't mind different director for all three films. Yeah, because I think I mean, absolutely. That worked for the OT, right? The OT, you had three different directors. The story came from George. But I really would have spent the time to have tell one person, listen, you have 6.5 hours worth of story to tell. How do you want to do it? And then work through it that way. And that way, again, not because what happened was bad, because actually I feel like the connection between 7 and 8 is actually really good. And I know that there's a lot of animosity around The Last Jedi, but I said it this week with Nick, there's a lot of animosity toward Rise of Skywalker as well. People don't talk about it as much. But Rise of Skywalker that's the silent loser of the films. And when I say that, I know that's going to piss some people off, but people don't complain about it. But when you talk to people, they're like, listen, I didn't really like The Rise of Skywalker. Not all people, but myself. I mean, I always say that's number 11 out of all of the live action films for me. But I think that's because of the fact that's probably the one that suffered the most by not having a quote unquote plan, because it got rewritten and then it got rushed. And I think that hurt it, because there was no blueprint. You could have rushed a movie if you had a blueprint. Which I don't think they did. What are your thoughts? Do you agree on that?
Rise of Skywalker. Look, I loved it for like, a myriad of reasons, besides the fact that it's Star Wars. I mean, it's a major reason. But there was a lot of, I've said this before, there's a lot of box checking going on this thing. And I'm sorry, I'm probably going to piss off some Raylos or whatnot, but who cares? What are you going to do? I'll wrestle you. It's over. I don't know what I'm saying right now. But
you'll be fine.
Pardon me. That kiss at the end, I was like, Dan was sitting right next to me, and he erupts. He's yes, and I was just. All right, cool. I get it. But like, I wasn't upset. But
it's funny.
Sorry, Danny.
My response was similar in that I was like, huh, they did it. Like that was literally, if there was a thought balloon above my head, it would have said, huh, they did it. Because I knew it was gonna happen. But I
can taste the cakes. You don't want none, man. I'm a champion.
Tasty Cakes is gonna accept.
Don't want none of this. I turn my hat around, man, and it's over. It's like over the top. I'm old.
Oh, man.
I'm so old.
Oh man! So we're going to give all of you listening the opportunity to weigh in with what you would do different. And don't forget, if you want your Shillsbury sticker, get out there on your social media networks and drop a link to this show with the hashtag Force Connect. We want to get as many people in here hanging out with us tonight, and we want to give away. I got a pile of 50 Shillsbury stickers. I would be happy if I ran out, and I'll go buy more. I don't care. I love the damn things. So see what you can do. So let's go to number 2. What would be sort of the next thing you might do? And again,
For me,
however, whatever it is, doesn't matter.
Oh.
Doesn't matter if it was you behind the desk with the pen in hand or whatever.
Here's one thing that I truly, truly miss in all the Star Wars programming: alien languages. Everybody, for the most part, is speaking basic.
Yeah.
You know, I you know, it's not that it takes me out if there, you know, there's some dude with a New York accent doing this thing like them cabbies in Clone Wars or something. But
Win the war.
Yeah, come on now. Hey, where you going? I'm driving over here. Up in that Coruscant. Hey, where you going? All right, come on. That was terrible. But
really
yeah, I was. But yeah, I would love to see more alien languages spoken. In give me some more Huttese. I love it. Give me all that stuff. I want to hear, you know, Duros. Like I would love to hear Cad Bane speak that language, you know, all that stuff. Yes, Eric. Oh wow.
Eric saying basic bitches.
Yikes. I don't know. Well, so how do you feel about that, Pete? Like, do you agree? Or
I agree. I think that's one of my honestly. I think my favorite line from A New Hope is Jabba waninchi kokba mushani taipani wan yoroska. When Greedo says that to Han Solo, because I just love that, and I also love it because a good friend of mine used to do an impression of Greedo, and he knew that entire thing, but he would do it as Dick Cavett, which is really you have to have been there for it. It's my friend Teddy Newton. He wrote the song Duck and Cover in Iron Giant. He's an animator, he's a designer, he's a creator. But the first time I met him, he was like, "Oh, you're a Star Wars fan. Let me show you something." And he did the entire Greedo conversation as Dick Cavett. And God, I wish I had that on tape somewhere. But I was impressed because I also knew that Jabba Wanichi, that whole part.
Yeah, I've got that. Yeah, look cool.
But I love that.
Love that.
I mean, I think you're right. I think if we were to get Return of the Jedi in the current era, Jabba would speak English or basic. And
probably. Yeah.
And that's, I love that. I love just that his language and it just sounds so, it really makes you feel like you're in that galaxy far, far away for sure.
Can you put up Jeff's comment real quick?
Yeah, sure. Which the Macho Man.
Yeah. Oh, shooter, yeah.
Jeff Quanley is he's making impression requests at this point. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. I'm trying to think, like, did Empire have much?
No.
It didn't. No.
Ichuta. That was it.
Ichuta was it. Yeah.
That one droid. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I agree with that. I think that's definitely something that's specific. And so for my second one, I'll piggyback on that one and say I wish I would bring more alien creatures to the front, whether it's as sidekicks or as lead characters in the show. I think, you know, it was pretty wild to see as much screen time as we got for Kuil. You know, he was but he was really
he did not at all. Like none of that.
That's true.
None of that.
If we could have brought in the if we could have brought in the Ugnaught sounds, but yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing about the animation is that there are a lot of alien creatures, and I think that's pretty cool. I think you we're going to see, a Twi'lek in the upcoming series. We're going to see a lot of that. But like, for example, Andor had almost no alien creatures, right? Other than
all right. So there were those ones when after the jailbreak,
right?
but
Those
they were like speaking some other, like it was like pig Latin or some shit.
Yeah,
right.
But that was really cool. Like that was a moment of Star Wars. I was like, that's very cool.
I was like, you almost got it. You almost had it.
Yep. But even like Mon Mothma's party scene, there was only a handful of aliens.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know.
Very human-y.
Yeah.
Racist.
it's humanist, freaking humanist. It's always the humanists. Well, okay. Well, I'm sure we have a couple more ideas. We're going to put the link in the chat after the break. We're going to take one more break, and then Chris and I are going to have a handful more of concepts and things that we would like to see if we were running Lucasfilm after the break, or after they sold it. But we're going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to put that link in the chat because we want to hear from you as well. So we'll be right back with more Force Connect in just a moment.
Hey, pick on someone your own size.
The Star Wars trilogy is back on the big screen, and it's even better with a Pepsi.
Great effects, man.
Yeah.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Everyone, we've got to save the Queen!
We're under attack! Mr. Jar Jar Binks come for comic relief.
Emergency landing on Tatooine.
No! Pod racing is wet. Love you, Mom.
Love you, Padme. Oh no! Darth Maul! My brains are spilling out!
Oh, joy. The end.
This is the weirdest date I've ever been on. I'm out of here.
Go you must.
Farewell. Bye-bye.
Star Wars Episode 1 cans collect all 24 this summer.
I had all those cans.
All 24 cans.
So much soda drink.
Well, hey, it was the late 90s, and it was all about Pepsi and Frito-Lay, Pizza Hut, all that stuff. But hey, we are back, and we're talking about what we would want to see a little bit different if we were running Lucasfilm instead of Disney at this point. I'm about to put the link in the chat. If you're gonna call us in, we want to hear. We got to hear some original ideas. We want to hear some creativity from you. But Chris, I'll tell you another thing that I would do, and then I'm going to get another thought from you. But what I would do is I would have, honestly, and this is not a tip of the hat to the grifters at all, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more compassion in the way the EU was taken away. And look, I was not a huge EU guy. I read a lot of the EU books. I didn't enjoy a lot of them. I mean, some of them were just way too weird. But it would have been, I think there was probably a better way to do it than to just say, hey, all those EU books, they're out, and we're moving on. Now, the good news is, of course, they're all still available, and they didn't stop printing them. In fact, they've re-released a lot of them. I love that they call back to a lot of things that we got there in one form or another. But I might have changed the way they went about that. What are your thoughts on that, Chris?
I'm the complete opposite. I'm glad they got rid of it. And it's nothing like I wasn't a huge fan of it because it became science fiction after a while, and a lot of Star Wars cosplay, a lot of the EU stuff, at least from the stuff that I read. Like, they didn't push it any further. They just, to me, they stayed in one place and they're like, oh, we got to just be like the original trilogy, and that's it. At least from the stuff that I saw or the stuff that I read. But I think it was the right move.
I think it was the right move. Yes.
Yes. It was absolutely the right move to get rid of it, set it aside for right now. And then as they catch their stride with what they're doing with the Star Wars universe, massage some of that stuff back in. Because if anyone out here says that they want the EU done, I'm looking at you, Danny. But anyone who wants, the EU to stick around, you're killing Chewie.
Dropping a moon on him. You're
Chewie.
Literally dropping a moon on him. Hey, listen,
who wants that? And then they have to explain that, and then you get like when people say, "Oh, we don't want to read a whole bunch of stuff to understand what this movie's about." You're going to have to understand why Chewie isn't around anymore.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. There he goes. He's got the win. All right, that's a fair point. I just to me it was more about, and again, maybe it's the marketing hat I have on, or actually I have a Clone Force 99 hat on from Heroes and Villains.
Yes,
but
yes, Task Force 99, baby.
But maybe it was the way they went about it. I think they I think they could have softened the blow a little bit. Again, I like you. I was not like at all disappointed, because I knew to get good stories, they had to start from scratch. Right. But, Angry Tasty Cakes is challenging Chris tonight. I can't wait till his call comes. Oh, the hat's backwards.
What's up, baby?
So, Chris, what else did you have on your list of things that you might have done a little bit differently?
Let's see. Have I talked about how I didn't like the way Finn was portrayed, and that I would have done that too? I have. You've
mentioned that.
I
Yes.
have. The only other thing, and for me, because really, like I had the one thing, and that was the alien languages. Like that was my thing.
Yeah.
But for me, and they have yet to do it. I want a black main character, like main character. Yeah, you did the whole red herring thing with the Force Awakens and all that, and you ripped the rug up from under a lot of fans of my complexion and darker. So that I need to have happen. Yep, we got Rosario Dawson in Ahsoka and whatnot, but I'd like to see some more. And I'm glad that we're having an alien lead.
Yeah,
I think that's
but
awesome. That needs to happen more, because humans, it can't be like Saved by the Bell, where there's one, like 5 kids who were at the front of everything, like the yearbook committee. They handle the graduation, all the club activities and whatnot, and there's hundreds of other students like, I don't know what to do. These 5 kids, Zach and his friends, are handling it. But yeah, I'd want to see more aliens in the forefront. Doing things that are important and have impact on the galaxy.
So comic books, a lot of the main characters, they and obviously because special effects are different in comic books,
right?
But I will say, and I think this is an interesting thing, you have Rosario Dawson, you have Lupita Nyong'o, like one of
wasted her beautiful
greatest
face.
Actresses, beautiful woman, and she's wasted as Maz Kanata.
And I love Maz Kanata, but
I love her as a character, but oh my gosh, Lupita Nyong'o is there in your movie, and we don't get her.
Nope.
And that is a waste. That's a shame for sure.
Yeah.
And it is interesting because they, as a franchise over the last several years, they've been touting their women first and diversity in their cast. But you're right, there is. We can't even get a Lando show, for God's sakes.
That one hurts.
Maybe we'll get one. Maybe.
Well, they did announce something, right?
They like sort of like tease that something might be coming. I don't know. I'm not sure. I would love. We need the Lando show. We need it. Yes. We need it. What we need is the writers and the actors to be properly compensated. We need AI to be taken off the table so that we can get that kind of thing. So yes, we definitely want to do that. All right. So Chris and I have talked enough about the ideas that we like, and we have a handful more, I'm sure, that we can come up with. But that's what makes Force Connect so great, is that we get to hang out with you and we get to hear from you. So we have a handful of people. We're going to get your 2-minute takes. You got 2 minutes to tell us what you would do differently with Star Wars. And we're going to bring in our first caller of the night.
Greetings, Exalted One.
Angry Tasty Cakes.
I'm first tonight.
He was first tonight because he was first in the chat. He was ready to go. But wait a second, he's been challenging Chris the entire night. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
$24.99 Heroes and Villains.
There you go. Nice.
That's all I'm saying. All right.
Heroes and Villains stuff is great.
Nice.
It's
there.
really good.
That's my hat challenge right there.
There you go.
So, yeah. We're in for this.
All right.
I'm all in.
I'm going to throw up 2 minutes. I want to hear what you would do different in if you were running Star Wars here. So
I'd keep Kathleen Kennedy because she's one of the most prolific producers in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
I'd put more bricks and screws into everything that Star Wars has. I would shut down Galaxy's Edge to make sure I can see more screws. Okay,
that's why Galaxy's Edge was actually closed. They realized there were not enough bricks and screws.
Yeah. No, honestly, I would have slowed down. Really, I think part of the reason why the sequel trilogy suffers so much is because I think Disney, when they bought it, they're like, oh crap, we just spent $4.2 billion. Now we have to recoup that as fast as possible.
Yep.
And they pushed out a trilogy to try and do it. And it wasn't really, I think they had a plan, but it wasn't well thought out as well as it could have been, right? Swapping directors halfway through and each one had creative differences. I don't think really did very much for it. As far as the EU goes, I think they should have been more selective on it. Not all of the expanded universe is bad. The Yuuzhan Vong can disappear. I won't care.
Yes.
That was about as
lend them to Star Trek.
Yeah, that's my thing, is like they were Star Trek through and through. That was the Star Wars equivalent of the Borg. It didn't need to be in Star Wars. They beat them because they gave them a cold. Like, come the hell on. What is that? I'm sorry. Get rid of the Yuuzhan Vong.
Will Smith and Independence Day? Come on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it was silly. Literally gave them a cold, and we're like, all right, now we can just start shooting them out of the air. No, that's not how that works. But, like, the Knights of the Old Republic games, that whole time frame, the Old Republic, great stories in there. They could have easily have adapted that by now, but they chose not to. Slow down on this.
They're slowly like massaging, like the Revan stuff in and whatnot.
Yeah, but, like on the Exegol comics with Vader, you could see like Revan and Malak on the walls and stuff like that. So like that's cool. There's just little teeny things that's what I would have done.
And I think that's an important perspective. Is it's small things. I think that's the reality of it. It's not throw everything out the window. I think it's there would have been some different choices, and I think we're always going to have that. We're always going to be like, you know what, I might have done that a little differently, or I might have tried that a different way. But
and that's the thing is like, as much as we want to like find something to be upset about, you can't.
Right.
Like, it's Star Wars. Be happy we even got it. Without Disney, we wouldn't have Mandalorian, Rebels, Clone Wars, the final season. We wouldn't have this upcoming stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. That is true. So, that's great.
Kind of where I'm at. More bricks and screws.
Man. Well, more bricks and screws, and hopefully we'll see you next week. And thanks for popping by tonight, my friend. Good to see you back. 2 weeks in a row.
I'm always here for the EU. Let me just say that. Like,
the streak is
yeah, that's all I'm saying.
What are your thoughts on a moon being dropped on Chewie?
Get rid of it. Yuuzhan Vong doesn't need to happen.
2 for 2. And get rid of them both. Get rid of them both.
Didn't Crix Madine die in that too?
Yeah. They were evacuating a village full of kids, and Chewie took one and hucked him over his shoulder like he was tossing a ball in rugby, and then shakes his fist like Old Man at Clouds and gets crushed by a damn moon. Silly. Stupid. Silly. I hate that book.
I tell you, when I was at Star Wars Celebration 2, my buddy was like, yo, there's the guy who wrote the Chewie death thing. And I was like, where's he at?
Yeah, you want to throw hands with him immediately.
Was it R.A. Salvatore?
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah. And then he goes on to write Kingdoms of Amalur, and you're like, that doesn't give you a pass.
But he wrote Plagueis too, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Doesn't give you a pass, no.
No. That was Lucino.
That was James Lucino.
Oh,
You're right. You are right.
Lucino?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still doesn't get him a pass.
My bad. Doesn't help Salvatore at all.
No. Throw hands. That's a fight on site.
All right. Well, thanks for calling, dude. We will see you next week. Oh man, I love it. Well, hey, you can't have angry tasty cakes without his arch enemy. I don't know if he's his arch enemy or not, but I'm trying to make more out of this than it probably is. But here is Eric Elliott coming in to join us.
Oh, thank the force! Come here, you little womp rat!
Okay, what do we have there? We have
it's Zillow, Ray, and Palpatine.
I want you next week. I want to
Chris,
see.
You're never going to get away from this. Okay, just accept it. Okay.
As long as you all know that the Bad Batch are Scar Squadron waiting to happen.
Okay.
And I'm fine for your Zillomania, brother. Running wild.
Yeah. All right, Eric, we're going to hit your clock, and we want to hear what you might do different if you were running Star Wars.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about this is a question of if I had time travel and I was back there and somehow I've switched bodies with Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know. But the point is that I run Lucasfilm, right?
You run. Yep.
One thing is just I would let Legends continue, but it is not the current canon. You can still make the books on the side or have a banner saying Legends like it normally does, but you just can still do new books for the old non-canon universe. I don't see a problem with that. But obviously, our main focus is going to be on the canon books. And I'm just let the Legends fans, let them have some fun and make sure that anyone that wrote any of those books, even before our acquisition, will get paid for every sale that they did. And that's one of the issues I have for past that. I would write script treatments for each of the sequel movies.
Yep.
I would be very particular about who I sign on to do one projects. Each of the sequel trilogy movies will take 3 years to come out, just like the originals and the prequels. I think that gives it ample time to make sure it's the best product possible.
Yep. That 1 year makes a huge difference. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I wouldn't really focus on parks. I would give that option to someone else. I wouldn't try to worry about myself in that. I'm just okay, I'm just worried about the media that you hold in your hand. The one you put on screen is what I would focus on.
Yep.
And on my watch, just I would do any leverage I can if there was a strike to bite their own hand if I need to of Disney.
Yeah. No, I actually think your Legends idea is a really unique idea, a different way to handle kind of what I said, where they sort of, they kind of if they kind of let that stuff continue, and almost in a what if kind of world, people could have had their thing there. So
I thought it was a great idea when they did Star Wars Infinity, so it was what if stories.
Right.
Why not still do that? I mean, we have visions. Why not do that? Continue with the comics. Just what if this happened? Yeah. I don't see a problem with that. As long as you properly label it, it's an issue.
If you keep that canon timeline going, just if you think about what happened, once the acquisition happened and they started the new canon, there are fans that I think the division would be a lot wider in the fandom because people weaponized Legends against the new canon.
That's a fair point.
This new canon. So that's the major thing for me. Making it separate, and I'm kind of not. That's just me. I'm not.
I'm Marvel Comics has 616 and they have Ultimate Universe. So I'm just why can't you do that with Star Wars?
That's Marvel. Let them do that.
But Marvel's publishing these books.
Yeah, but it's not part of them. It's just Marvel Comics is publishing those books, but it's not a part of the 616.
One big thing that we need to learn here is that Star Wars fans just need to get over themselves. They're always pissing and moaning about the wrong shit.
Well, that's fair.
True.
That is fair. That is fair. Well, Eric, thank you again for joining us. Your streak is unbroken. You still
Cal Ripken.
Cal Kestis Ripken. So, all right, my friend, we'll We'll catch you next week, my friend. Take care. See ya. Oh man, love. I honestly, there's a Zillow Beast thing waiting to happen. I don't know what it is, but we definitely have to see it. Remember,
Zillomania is running wild, man.
Zillomania. We still got a couple callers left. When we come back from the break, we're gonna get to them. And remember, head on over to your social media, share the link to this show tonight. Use the hashtag ForceConnect, and I want to send you a little Shillsbury Doughboy sticker.
So it goes, and then lightning or like flower.
He goes
force flower.
He goes, do it. Oh man. All right, we're gonna take a short break so I can recover from that. And when we come back, we have a couple callers waiting to join us. We're waiting to hear from you as well. Look for that link in the chat, and we want to hear what you would do different if you were running Star Wars. We'll be right back with more Force Connect.
R2? Where are you? R2? R2? Huh? R2, you're on fire! R2-D2, you found a cigarette! Well, I don't think smoking is grown up at all. Because it's very dangerous. Smoking does dreadful things to your lungs and is very bad for your heart. Well, I know I don't have one, but humans do, and I think we should set a good example. Well done, R2. Oh, hello. You know smoking is bad for your health, and it isn't grown up at all. So please, don't smoke. R2, do you really think I don't have a heart?
Dirty hypocrite. Listen, if there's anyone in the universe who deserves to take a drag every now and again, it's R2-D2. This dude he's so stressed. He's keeping like the biggest secrets in the galaxy, and he's saved the galaxy more times than I can count.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, we are going to bring in another caller, and I feel like I can't recall if this gentleman has been with us before, but we let's bring him in.
Go for Papa Palpatine.
You have a collect call from
Darth Vader.
I gotta take this. Hold on.
Welcome, Sir Eric. Eric, have you been out to this live
on
the show? I did.
No,
okay,
no. This is the first time. Nice meeting you guys, folks.
We are so excited that you can join us tonight. I like your hey on your shirt, and that's awesome. Look at that look at that Marvel thing going on in the back there.
This just happens to be where most of my Marvel stuff is. Most of my Star Wars stuff is around the corner. My huge figure collection and wall of lightsabers.
That is, I can't help but notice when we get new callers, I just like kind of looking around and seeing what's happening there. Got a little bit of, are those classic Kenner toys?
No. That's the vintage collection.
Okay.
Galaxy's Edge Falcon from Target a few years ago, and then the X-Wing and Slave One.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. Did I say something bad?
No, that's like those 3 ships. That's like $700 right there.
Oh my gosh! Whoa! He just ran the camera to the left to the Razor Crest, and that's that's
collection flexing.
Did you buy the Ghost?
Yeah. I'm in for one.
I'm tempted as I'm so close. I know that I only have like less than a month left, I think, to do it. I should just do it because I was so pissed I didn't do the Razor Crest. And then I saw the Razor Crest like in person. I was like, you could literally fly that thing. It is gigantic.
It's impressive.
And the Ghost is my favorite ship. I have the only Ghost I have is from the X-Wing game.
That's
Okay.
what I have too. Yeah.
Which
I
I
wasn't
never
sure
played
if that
the
was
game.
one of the micro galaxy squadrons. I'm not sure if they've done their ghost yet.
Yeah,
I've never played the game. I've
never played the game either, but I think
so
those things
good.
are cool. All right, Eric, I'm going
Yeah.
to start the clock for you, and I want to hear
Nice.
what you might do different.
Okay. All right. Fundamentally, there's much more good than bad from what the Disney era has brought Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, more Star Wars is good Star Wars. And as long as we keep getting content, I will be happy. It may not be the best, but it's not everything is meant to service everyone's needs and desires.
Very well put.
For the films, first of all, they should have been given more time. Agree with everything you guys have said, but I think this may be an unpopular opinion with a lot of people. On top of having a more kind of coherent, cohesive plan, I think Disney and Lucasfilm should have recognized the fan base and not necessarily pandered to it, but as long as he was really willing and had them, they should have leaned into George's treatments, not because they would have been better, but it's his story, and at least they could have used that as a scapegoat if things didn't go well, right?
Yeah.
Right now, they're taking all the brunt for the kind of a lot of the sequel hate.
Yep.
That is.
But I think even back then, like a lot of people still they didn't from the prequels, they still felt burnt by the prequels, so they didn't want George to touch it. And then when the sequels came out, please George, touch this whole thing, please.
Right. Hindsight 2020, right? But yeah, and if they didn't want to include George, it really should have been one creator,
yeah,
someone, right? Yeah. In any case, EU and Legends decision, spot on. Start fresh. They needed to, right? Books and Lucasfilm Publishing have knocked it out of the park. Marvel Comics, awesome games, awesome parks. I probably would have done things a little bit differently. I probably would have, if possible, built a whole dedicated park for Star Wars and built something that was more geared towards what theme park goers were expecting, kind of like with a hub and each land different planet, rather than the Groundhog's Day type of experience. What they did is awesome. I love it, but it wasn't I don't know. Yeah, it's
interesting. So I'm because I haven't had a chance to talk to you, and I've seen you in the chat with us a bunch of times. I have two questions for you based on things that you said there. Let's start with Galaxy's Edge. Yeah. I tend to agree that if it was Tatooine instead of Batuu and it was original trilogy era, I think it would have been. But I understand why they did it because they were trying to sell this new era. That said, do you see Batuu evolving? Do you see it changing to something else?
I think it would be really difficult to do that with the decisions they made and the money they invested. They basically took what limited space in Disneyland and MGM Hollywood Studios and shoehorned what they could fit into that space. I don't think outside of just bulldozing the entire thing and starting fresh, I'm not sure how much they can do to recover from that. I think they're kind of stuck in a little bit. But I would have preferred different planet, kind of you could take a shuttle, Star Tours over to Hoth or whatever. I think that's cool. I think that's what a lot of average theme park fans were probably expecting, and they didn't end up getting.
Right. Yeah. People call it Star Wars Land, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's a neat place to visit.
It was really ambitious what they did, and they executed it fairly well. I think they could have had a lot more with even the space that they did have. That they cut the budget and eliminated restaurants and other droids and aliens walking around and whatnot. But
my prediction is we will see if we do get a season 4 of Mando. If it's not a film, which is of course the latest rumor, I think Mando goes to Batuu at some point.
Oh, he's already there. Oh, you mean
no, I think in the show.
In the show.
And that way you're making a direct connection and you're
I dig everything you said, Eric. I would want if they could do this, just a couple costume changes and maybe get rid of that one First Order shuttle, and bring in the Imperial shuttle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And do like a nice little, just like a little.
Well, you know the story
DLC
behind that,
skin
right? The TIE Echelon that is in. You don't know. So that was designed as a ship for Colin Trevorrow's episode 9. That was supposed to be in Duel of the Fates. And by the way, huge plug for, I can't remember the guy's name. I can find it and send it on Twitter or whatever later on. But that Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates treatment and script is like public or whatever. Some guy made a comic out of it.
Yeah,
highly recommend checking it out. It's really interesting to see what could have been.
Someone came to me for a while ago about that, about this comic that they're making, because they were going to do what Star Wars Audio Comics does and do a video comic of the whole thing. And they asked me to voice Finn. So yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from that so I can get started.
Cool.
But yeah,
that'd be cool.
I do voices too.
I shall talk to them.
One last thing, I think, and thanks for the extra time. If I was in control, I would find a way to make this guy and Gunji get together and have a grand old time.
What's his name? Nubs and Gunji. It's like it sells
gun.
itself. It sells itself.
Yeah.
The most adorable adventures.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
The bestest Jedi.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us on the screen. We look forward to seeing you again on here with us sometime.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers.
I love it when new people call. That's great. And I see another new caller. But before we get to our next new caller who's waiting to get on, I want to bring on one of our favorite regulars. And I definitely want to hear what she has to say. So
is she going to be mad at me?
I can't say for sure, but she might be mad at you. She might be mad at you. So here we go.
Man.
Hello.
We have.
I'm never mad at you, Chris. I love you dearly.
Ah, that's so nice.
Yeah. And the Raylo thing kind of got me, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Because I'm going to piss you off in my comments.
All right, Danny, I'm going to start the clock on you. I want to hear what you would do different. Here we go.
So I have 3 things that I would do differently. So number 1 is, and I'm kind of reflecting it based on how well both Top Gun and Barbie has done.
Yeah.
Bring back joy and love and functional families and happy relationships to Star Wars in some form. Like, Leia was miserable in her little corner, broken up from Han, who's miserable in his corner. Luke's a miserable old fart on like an island, and he can't show up for his sister until her back is literally against the wall. Like, that's not the Luke we know, And I'm not saying that how they portrayed him was wrong. It's just, everybody's broken. Everybody's some orphan who's stolen from their family. Everybody's got some dead parent. It's just, nobody's happy and everybody's miserable. And the only thing that's made that I see as a happy, functional relationship is the one between Mandalorian and Grogu.
I was just going to say, what's been the most successful Star Wars? It's been
it's been the most successful because for 2 seasons at least, you saw this guy accepting the role of fatherhood.
Yep.
And it was great, and it was happy.
I think it's because happy families is alien to Star Wars. Like, just absolutely, it's nothing but broken families, and everyone's.
Well, listen, found families are great, but you know what else is great? Actual families. Han and Leia sacrifice themselves, and only for their kid to die in the end. Like, come on.
Right. Well. In the comics, Pete, Sana Staros. Had a 5-issue run in dealing with her family. They're my favorite family in Star Wars. Yeah. What an amazing family. Yeah. A couple problems here and there, but they're.
So my other thing is, and this might trigger Chris a little bit, so I'm sorry, but can we save some of the awesome content that's making its way into the comics and put it on film, like Kira? I mean, Emilia Clarke is there, Alden Ehrenreich is there, all that Kira story and that Crimson Dawn story. We need to see that on film for the love of Christ.
Yeah. bring it out in comics, and then make a live action out of it.
Well, who was we had somebody on a couple of weeks ago who recommended that you take some of those comics and you make them into animated series because you're not going to pull Mark Hamill. He's and this I tried to tell this to somebody, like, look, we all would have loved to have seen more Adventures of Han, Leia, Luke, and Lando, but they're
not at 75.
I don't want to watch a 70-year-old guy. I mean, Indy worked somehow, but four indies running around, I don't need to see. No,
I shouldn't be getting my content filler exclusively from comics and books. Like, save some of that stuff for the film. And then can I just quickly put in a third one?
Yeah.
Please stop announcing shit until it's in production. Because how's that Ryan Johnson trilogy working out, guys?
That was actually Danny. That was on
lesson, I think.
That was on my list, Danny, of things like let's not float things until they're a lot closer to
don't float directors, don't float writers, don't float anything until the shit's in production, because I'm getting tired of having dangling this carrot on Disney Investor Day, and then 5 years later, how's that Lando series coming along? Come on.
See, now you're making Chris mad.
I know, but I love him so much. I'm just saying, those just tiny little improvements. It doesn't even have to be much. Just a little bit of happiness, a little bit of content, and maybe make the Obi-Wan a movie like they were originally going to, because it's the two biggest draws that you're going to get, and you kind of drop the ball on that. But whatever.
Yep. No, these are all fair thoughts, and I love hearing from you. And thanks.
But I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
And that's just it. It's sort of like, and again, back to Ash Crossan, who started our conversation tonight. Ash said when she was on Around the Galaxy, she said, Star Wars is like your younger brother. You love it, but you love to give it a hard time. And that's, honestly, and that's the problem with social media right now. Like, it's difficult for me. Nick and I just did an episode of Around the Galaxy where we got pretty real about things that we think are forcing a little bit of a challenge to the franchise. And every time I said anything, I was like, but let me just caveat that. And the reality is, just be real about it. And I loved every one of your comments, Danny. So it's great to see you, great to hear from you. And hopefully we will hear from you again very soon.
I think we only make comments because we care. I want to see, I want to be in 40 years, I want to be in my old age home watching Star Wars.
Absolutely.
But if they don't start turning the ship around, I'll be lucky if I make it out of retirement and it'll still be around. That's how concerned I am about the future of Star Wars. So I think it's worth expressing what we feel.
Yep. 100%.
And we're not antis for doing so.
Well, that's just it. And it's expressing it from a place of love versus those that are expressing it from a place of politically motivated bullshit and profit. Yep. And that's a very different thing. And I love that you brought that out. That's fantastic.
Okay. Well, love you guys.
Good to see you. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't get on the camera because you know how Canadian internet is.
Canadian internet, no worries. Hey,
never
at least
disappoints.
You got internet. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Say hi to your dad.
She's the best. Love her, and she also she and my dad, I think, are going to start a podcast about Columbo. I think that has to happen.
Do it.
There's got to be one out there, maybe. I don't know. We have one more caller on the night, and I think this is a new one who's been hanging out with us in the chat for months and months and months. But let's bring in our next caller.
Hello, what have we here?
TW McKay. TW, tell me, have you been on the show? I can't recall if you've
once or twice. It's been a very, very long time.
Yeah, well, this one has inspired you to give us a call, and we're so excited to hear from you. Awesome. How's it going?
What's up, brother?
It's good. It was very tough to try and boil it down into 2 minutes. Not because I have a lot of stuff to say, but it's just I was kind of rambling and going here and there, and there. I'm like, okay, this is the bullet points. Let's get to it.
And so let me hit it. Here we go. Whoops.
All I see is the loading thing. Yeah, okay, cool. I'd say have a central writer. Maybe each director can pick co-writers if they want to that might fit where they're going with it, but have one person sort of as your central writer. Same with the central producing figure, just to have a stronger guiding hand.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I wouldn't be afraid to adapt Legends material in the way that Marvel adapts, the MCU adapts comics. doesn't have to be everything. It doesn't have to be often, but just don't be afraid to say, "Hey, I like this. I like that. We'll bring it in as we want to." It kind of in the way they're doing now, but I would have gone a little bit stronger with it. With regards to alien languages, I'm with Chris. More alien languages. You could have your protagonists speak basic to make it a bit easier for a broader audience, and then have your protagonists understand non-basic languages to help, and then just have burned in subtitles.
Yep.
Like we had
for the OT.
Yep.
And then have more humanoid, basic speaking aliens as your protagonists. There's a lot out there. There's Togrutas. There's Twi'leks. There's this species, that species. There's a lot of great stuff there. And then for shows around the OT period, I wouldn't have been afraid to recast, long as you get a hat tip from the original actor.
Yep.
And possibly even if they have the opportunity to talk to George about it, just say, does he like it? Cool. All right, that fits. And then the last thing I would say is, like Andor, don't be afraid to have something to say. I think the last 1138 article had a great thing about how Star Wars means nothing, in the sense of, because there's no George figure there, it's now whatever writer brings it in. Don't be afraid to have something to say. It can be a political thing, it can be a social thing, it can be a cultural thing. Just don't be afraid to have something to say.
Yeah.
That's a really great comment, because I think it gets mired in, and it gets misunderstood as quote unquote. I was just about to say the word woke, and the computer said, "No, you're not going to say that." But people call it that incorrectly, completely incorrectly. But it is great to have that. Let me ask you a question, because I liked what you said about recasting, and I think I personally find it hard, because I was 7 when I saw Mark Hamill on screen, and I don't love the deep fakes. I know a lot of people are fans of that, but tell me more about your thoughts on. Yeah, tell me your thoughts a little bit more on. Would you want to see, like, let's say we get a story of Luke, Leia, and Han from I almost said it like Lando, Luke, Leia, Han, and Lando from a few years after Return of the Jedi. Would you want to see a completely recast movie? Would you go see that?
I would have absolutely no problem with it if they wanted to go with something like I don't know, Alden Ehrenreich. Maybe have Billy Lord play Leia, and then have someone else around Billy Lord's age play Luke. Do something like that. Or even just do a recast of Leia as well. I think it's tough now, especially because we've lost Carrie Fisher. It's a very touchy subject. We still have Harrison Ford. We still have Mark Hamill. With a lot of these people, we still have them. And I think what I'm kind of scared about is when it comes to people like James Earl Jones, Anthony Daniels, where even though Anthony Daniels was in the suit, I'm a little bit nervous that if, God forbid, something happens to these actors, whenever they leave us, that we're going to still be hearing in some strange way this, like re-speecher version of their dialogue.
Yeah. Well, we heard James Earl Jones is in Obi-Wan.
Yep.
So
yeah,
and it was
all him, so
it was something that you could literally hear, and I thought that was I did not care for that. You could hear when it was re-speeched, so
funny enough, I think in Obi-Wan they actually was probably the best way to get away with it, because of the fact that you don't see a mouth, like having to deal with it with Luke. But like I said, it's neat, and because of the fact that they have the consent of James Earl Jones, he's here, he's with us, he can talk about this thing, he could potentially provide input if he wanted to. It's different from something like whatever, right? It's a very strange situation that obviously you're going to have to tackle at some point if you do decide to stay on this era, because we're going to be seeing them, assuming that nothing gets canceled. There's a piece of material, I guess, because he can talk about it because it's future and not past or present. There's a film in production, or not in production, but pre-production, that's going to take place right around this time period. So at least we're probably going to see Luke. I'm not sure about Han or Leia, probably not, but Luke Skywalker being in this story would make sense, along with the other characters.
But I agree with that. Well, TW, thank you so much for calling in, man. It was great to hear from you. Great to versus just the great comments you leave in the chat. I love it. And but
It
thank
was
you.
good to be here. I do have one quick question.
Sure.
With regards to the Shillsbury Doughboy.
Yes.
And his bread lightsaber.
Yes.
Does that mean gluten is evil?
It might be a gluten-free roll. We don't know. It might be. I don't know. We'll have to see what the head canon tells us on that one. But
you gotta
the bread cannon.
To make it
bread cannon. Well, with that, CW, we can't beat that. We're gonna let you go on that. Thanks for calling in, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
Palpatine would be a perfect baker. Palpatine would be a perfect baker. He's standing outside the proving machine, just rise.
Boring conversation anyway.
That was awesome. That was great.
Yeah.
Rise. Yeah. That was awesome. Oh,
Danny, I would voice the hell out of Lando. I am not camera ready, Lando, no matter what age. Yeah, I'm not camera. There's no way. No one's gonna believe that. Hey guys, I'm sorry. I love those space donuts so much. No, I'm not that smooth. I wish I was that smooth.
Oh man. This was great. This was a good conversation. This was really a lot of fun. And again, here, this is kind of an interesting turning point and an interesting opportunity to discuss this week's Around the Galaxy, this week's Force Connect. I think we have found a way to talk about the series, the franchise that we love in a critical way without having to feel like we're defending ourselves. And that's the problem with Twitter. If you go on Twitter and you say, I did not like The Rise of Skywalker, I will get destroyed by people who love it. And it's all in how you do it. And obviously you can't do it in 280 characters, or if you have a blue check, you can just keep writing. But it's hard to have that conversation, but I think it's important. And what Danny said, I completely agree with. And I think it's, sort of the impetus behind this conversation is we love Star Wars. We want Star Wars to continue. We are voicing opinions on it. We are not coming at it and saying, bringing political perspectives to our Star Wars opinion.
Right.
It's opinions about things that we would love to see more of. And it all this is that conversation that comes from a place of passion. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. We're not being dicks about it.
That's just it. It's the no asshole policy in full form here. So, well, I think we're coming to the end. It's not too late. Go ahead and share this link. Get your Shillsbury Doughboy sticker. Share the link for this show, the YouTube link with the hashtag Force Connect. We will find you and we will DM you and ask for an address, and I will send you out a Shillsbury sticker and probably a couple of other stickers. But Chris, what's going on in Broaxium? There's music coming in here. You like that? We're like a real show now.
To start a musical.
Star Wars the musical.
Let's see. We have Shooting the Poodoo coming back this weekend, Sunday 9:00 live on the Broaxium YouTube channel and on our Twitch, on our Facebook, on our X Twitter, Twix.
Sure.
Delicious. So we have those coming out this week in Star Wars comics. We have Darth Vader number 37. Dan will be doing a quick shot preview for that. And Tuesday we have some more Broaxium gaming, Broaxium_gaming with Roke and Dan. And look forward to that. Check them out. Give us a like and subscribe on our Broaxium channel if you haven't already. Yeah. It would mean the world to us. Thank you.
Go and do that. And if you're watching this channel tonight and you're not subscribed, please do so. If you're listening in the replay, go to youtube.com/the SSW at the SSW Network. Follow us here. We're at 800 followers almost. We need to get to 1,000. Help us out. Help us get there. And we will get there soon. And also consider joining our Patreon, because if you join Patreon, it's as little as $3 a month, and you get some stickers, you're going to get some stuff, and you're going to get to hang out with us when we record Around the Galaxy. And this Tuesday night, me and Nick are speaking to DJ Older, Daniel Jose Older, and his wonderful wife, Brittany N. Williams. And we're going to talk about Star Wars geekiness as a couple. And they have a brand new podcast themselves that we're going to talk about. So if you're a patron, you can join us $3 a month and you can be part of the live chat. And much like we do here, we'll probably bring in your questions and comments during the show. But that's what's happening. And again, I referenced it a couple times, but Nick and I did a sort of a different type of Around the Galaxy this week. And we talked about sort of Star Wars at a turning point, sort of the conversation we had tonight. But go and check that out if you want to hear Nick and I talk a little bit more about that. But Chris, it's been great hanging out with you tonight. I am looking forward to you and I are gonna get together sometime later this week.
Yeah,
that will be fun. But in the meantime, may the Force be with you
always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.